Okay, welcome everybody to 10x Performance, how to reach optimal performance. My name is Mendy Dubov. I will be your presenter today. This is a Yellow Mentality presentation. I will talk about that in a little bit, about what Yellow Mentality represents. But in this webinar, we are going to go through 4 primary tools and exercises that are going to increase and maximize performance 10x. Okay, I'm going to teach you ways and tools that are going to bring you to that next level. You don't have to be a basketball player. You don't have to be a presenter on stage. We are all presenters in our own way. Every single one of us. The fact that we make decisions means that we are performing every single day of our lives, okay? And in this webinar, we're gonna go through ways that are going to help you make these decisions in an optimal way in order that you can be clear-minded and 100% present in those moments in order to get the best from those decisions when they happen, okay? So my name is Mendy Dubov, like I said. I am the founder of Yellow Mentality. Yellow Mentality is a coaching firm that helps people deal with these issues that we have. We have 3 different divisions. We have a relationship division, a business division, and I run the performance division, okay? So I work with athletes, performers, stock traders. I've been doing this for about 3 years now. And people say stock traders is kind of funny, but we'll discuss that in a second. But the idea is that each of these athletes, performers, and stock traders all come to a moment where they have to make a decision in a second, and that's going to change the outcome of the scenario that they're in, okay? And it's all about, again, being completely clear-headed, being 100% present in order that when you reach those moments that you've been waiting for, whether you're a basketball player, whether you're a performer on stage, whether you're a stock trader and you have to make that trade that's detrimental to the company or detrimental to your portfolio, you have to be able to be 100% present and maximum. You have to be 100% there and with your whole entire being, okay? So I use different techniques like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, if you're not familiar with that. It's the idea of NLP is all about being able to use your mind as your tool, as a powerful tool that you can completely delete memories and reestablish memories and reframe memories in order to best suit you and best help you in whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. I use a little bit of psychology. I'm not a sports psychologist or a regular psychologist. The reason for that is because regular psychologists will use past things that came up for you, past occurrences, and they will do therapy around the past. And I don't deal with the past as much as I'd like to deal with the present and the future. It's about where you are right now. It's about using the tools that you have right now. Right now, you have to hit that shot coming out of a timeout with 3 seconds left in an NBA game. That's what we're dealing with. We're not going to go and talk about all the things that happened when you were a little kid. We have to deal with right now. We got to deal with the present moment. We got to deal with what we have on the table right now. Okay, and I use a couple other methods that we are actually going to go through some of them today in this webinar in order to reach optimal performance, okay? So going back to Yellow Mentality, a lot of people ask me, what is Yellow Mentality? Who comes up with an idea or a name that's a color and an adjective or a concept, an idea? And the answer is going to be in this slide, but funny enough, the yellow represents in psychology, yellow represents positivity. Not just positivity, but that's the main representation of the color yellow. Each color has different meaning, if you weren't sure about that. Every color represents something else. So blue represents being calm, being laid back. So yellow in this context represents positivity. It also represents consciousness. It also represents energy, which is why a lot of people always tell me, they say, if yellow represents positivity, why do I always see street signs that are yellow and they're supposed to be caution? Like they're supposed to be scary, right? But the answer to that is that it's exactly right. They want you to be conscious of what's going on around you. They want you to be alert. Consciousness is a powerful tool. If you're 100% conscious, that means you're present. It means you're there. When you're thinking about something in the past, you can't be conscious in the present moment. Okay, so when you're driving down the road and you see a construction sign, they want you to be present. They want you to be here in your entirety. Otherwise, you're just going to be driving, thinking about what's going on in the future or the past, and you're not going to be focusing on the road, which can cause a crash, which would be dangerous for construction workers. So that's where the yellow part comes in. Mentality is your mindset and how you think, right? We all have a certain way of thinking, and we all, our mindset is made up of the things we think about and the all of our past experiences that make up our mindset, make up how we think, make up our mental makeup, our mental home, if you will. Okay, so your mindset's going to be how your brain is wired, right? If you grew up in a home where everything was all about screaming and jumping, your mindset and your mentality will probably reflect on those moments growing up. Okay, and I'm not going to go into the whole how your past can or is triggering you, how to make your decisions. I'm not going to go into that now, but the idea here is that your mentality is the way your brain is wired. If you have a negative mentality or mindset, you're going to be more prone to make decisions in a negative way, and the same goes for a positive attitude. So yellow mentality represents being that positive mental state and being able to make those decisions in a yellow mentality, which will bring you that optimal performance, okay? And going back real quick, if you think about the color yellow, just going back to the positivity side of yellow, think about Disney characters for all those big Disney fans. If you think about main character Disney characters, mainly animation, but you have Tweety Bird, which is the flighty, positive little bird. You have Big Bird, which in Sesame Street is the big bird that's always thinking positive. You have SpongeBob is the positive one. You have Joy from the movie Inside Out, which is the famous one. So you have all these ideas. You keep on going. Yellow, Pikachu is energy. Yellow is always going to be that positive represented character, okay? Peak performance is deeply rooted in how we think, okay? Again, if you have to make a shot in a basketball game, the difference between making the shot and not making the shot is beside for the practice. If you take two people that are equally good at shooting free throws, they both shot 100,000 free throws in their life, it'll come down to a moment where I'm actually going to show you a video in this webinar about the NBA Finals that happened, the game that happened, game one of the NBA Finals in 2018, for those of you that are watching this later on. We had a basketball player that missed a crucial free throw, and I believe, based on my expertise in this field, that it came down 100% to the mental side of basketball and of sports. If he was mentally prepared for that moment, there's no doubt in my mind that he would have made that free throw. Since he wasn't mentally prepared, he missed it, and they eventually lost the game, okay? So peak performance is rooted in how we think. When we're thinking about something, that will be connected to how we're thinking. A good performance and a bad performance is connected to our thought process, okay? Every tool in this webinar is going to be mindset based, right? I'm not going to tell you and give you ways how to increase performance by lifting weights or by eating a better diet. That's not what I do. You can speak to nutrition or you can speak to a fitness trainer, but I'm going to go through, I'm your mental fitness trainer. I'm going to tell you ways to mentally fix the things that are not working for you in order to get you to that next level, okay? And lastly, we are the only creatures on this earth that a thought can lead to a feeling. And this is very, very important. And this is going to be the basis of this entire webinar, which is that an animal can't have a feeling based on a thought, okay? Humans, we think something and we feel it, okay? We think that we might miss a shot in a basketball game. We think that since our boss didn't reach out to us, therefore we might be getting fired. That leads to a feeling of fear, of anxiety, of stress. These are all the feelings that we have are based and come from our mind. That's how powerful, just to give you an idea, how powerful our mind really is, okay? So our minds can control how we feel, and the same goes vice versa. We can control how we feel based on what we're thinking about inside of our head, okay? So what is mental training? Mental training is using the power of the brain or the mind, okay? Our mind, again, like I said, is an extremely powerful tool that is completely underestimated in the world of sports, in the world of business, in the world of entrepreneurial development in the world of anything you want to talk about, the mental training is completely underestimated, and we should be using it more. Unfortunately, we're not, and we're still learning more and more about how the brain works and how we can use it to our advantage. But the power of the mind, that we can feel emotions and we can make decisions, all come from here. Okay, every single thing that happens in our life is coming from here. Okay, physical conditioning versus mental conditioning. Physical conditioning is, like I said, we can practice and shoot 100,000 free throws in our entire life from when we started at age 1, or we can be doing Excel sheets for those business people. We can be running Microsoft, and we can be a public speaker, or we can be speaking for the sake of the example. We can be speaking our entire life, but when we get to that moment where we have to perform, we have to be 100% present, and we have to show up, that will come down to what goes on inside of our head. Okay, so again, if it's the basketball player, and like I said, I'm going to show you later on a video. But if it's a basketball player, the difference between making a clutch free throw or making a clutch shot, or if it's a performer, the difference between making a clutch move in ballet, making that triple jump. If for the business professional, the difference between closing the deal, not closing the deal. After all those years, again, I'm not discounting the mental, the physical side of performing physical exercise and practice is very, very important. But I'm talking about the mental side. So once all that's done, once you did the physical exercise and training, it's going to come down to what's going on inside of your head. Okay. Mental training also reduces stress and builds confidence. Okay. Your ability to reduce stress is, first of all, very important when it comes to performing, as well as confidence. If we don't have confidence in what we're trying to do, first of all, people could sense through our body language if we're confident or not. And sometimes we're like, yeah, I could hide it. Or I'm a good, I'll just get up there, and as long as my confidence is pretending to be there, and then it'll be good enough. Not necessarily. People could read body language, and they understand and know that if we're not confident, that takes away from your expertise, and it takes away also from your ability to perform at an optimal level. Okay. So reducing stress and building confidence is very important when it comes to performing. The greatest athletes are also using mental training now. And we've seen it prior, but now more than ever. But you go through big names like Michael Jordan, Serena Williams, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. These guys have been using mental training, the best of the best. And this is not a coincidence. The best of the best people are using mental training. That's why they're good. Not that they're good and they're using mental training. The mental training is progressing them into the player that's making them the Hall of Famer or the elite class. Okay. And it's the edge, like I said earlier, the edge that the greatest performers have over others. So again, if you have 2 athletes or 2 performers that have done the same amount of physical training, it's going to come down to that mental side of who trained more mentally, who's ready for the moment, who knows how to reduce stress and build huge confidence in the moment, in a second, in an instant. That's going to be the one that's going to overcome and have the edge over another athlete if they're competing against each other, or even if you're competing against somebody your entire life, right? It's going to come down to who is training better. And if you look at, like I said, I mentioned a couple of athletes, but even someone like The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, or Tony Robbins is one of the greatest life strategists, if you will. These people have been using mental training, whether they knew it or not. The Rock and Tony Robbins, they didn't even realize they were using mental training until further on. That's what led Tony Robbins into the career that he has. But in the beginning, they started with these amazing ideas of how to use the brain, and that led them into what they've become today. Okay. So the first exercise or tool, if you will, that I'm going to give over to you guys today is called the why. Okay. So finding your why. The why is your motivation and your momentum to keep moving forward, even when everyone else or everything else tells you to stop, right? Everything is screaming for you to stop. You have a marathon runner that's running and he gets to mile 20 and his body is aching and he feels like he can't take another step. Your why, which is your motivation, usually it could be external or internal, but it's going to be that why, the reason you started and the reason that you continue to compete, that's going to get you past your physical limitations that your body is screaming for you to stop, but you say, I'm going to keep on going because of X. Okay. So some of the greatest performers some of the greatest performances by athletes were athletes that had a strong why. And just to name a few, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Isaiah Thomas that plays for the Lakers now, and Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest boxers that recently died, one of the greatest boxers that ever got into the ring. These people had such strong whys that led them into the player or the athlete that that they were able to become. Okay, so again, your why is that reason. That I'm going to give you 5 questions in a little bit of how to find your why, and 5 questions that will lead you into a direction of, everyone has a different why, but this is going to lead you into a direction that's going to help you define that. But, Isaiah Thomas, for an example, he scored in a playoff game. I believe it was last year, and it may not have been playoffs, but he scored, I believe it was 51 points, I believe. And after the game, they came over to him and they said, Isaiah, you're not an elite athlete, if you will. You're not one of the greatest yet, at least. And you're short. You're under 5'9", and you're play point guard, but for some reason on a random day like today, you go out and you score 51. What happened? And he looks at the reporter and he says, last night my sister died, and this performance was in tribute to her. And hearing that gave me shivers, but that was his why. His why was, I'm playing for something greater than myself. It's not just about putting up the numbers, getting those stats up, and winning the game, but it became more about his sister and a tribute to her, and knowing that she's watching him, that gave him that extra push to become superhuman, if you will. And the why does that. The why makes us superhuman. Another example is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, when he was chasing his 5th ring on Father's Day, he was playing in a finals game, an NBA finals game. And that was the day that his father was murdered. And he went out there and he played like he never played before, and he ended up winning that ring, his 5th ring. And again, that's some testament into how powerful the why is. He played, it wasn't for him. It wasn't just about getting another ring. A 5th ring is nice, a 6th ring is nice. You know, you can count the rings on your fingers, but what are you playing for? Why'd you get onto the court? And then lastly, another great example is Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was a kid growing up, and one day he bought a new bike. Became his favorite bike. And if you know kids, when they get things that they've always wanted, I remember my bike was one of the, I love my bike so much as a kid. Muhammad Ali had a bike and it got stolen one day. And he goes, and someone told him, they said, there's a cop downstairs in the basement. If you want to go report or go asking for help, go ahead. And he goes downstairs and he tells the cop, he says, I want to take revenge on this kid. I want to go get my bike back and show him who's boss. And the cop says to him, he says, if you want to take revenge, you have to know how to fight. And it happened to be that this cop actually had a training facility, he was a boxing trainer. And he says, I'm going to teach you how to box. And he taught Muhammad Ali how to box, and he ended up becoming one of the greatest fighters of all time. But if not for that stolen bike, who knows who Muhammad Ali would ever be? So again, it's that why, it's that reason, that motivation, or that motive, if you will, that got them to a certain place where they said, I'm doing this for something greater than myself. And when you take away ego, when you take ego out of the equation of what you're trying to accomplish, it becomes so much more powerful, and it becomes so much more accessible. Things that you've never thought, or ways that you've never thought were possible, start to become within your range of ability, because it's not just about winning, or it's not just about performing, or it's not just about finishing the contest or finishing your day at work or starting that company. It becomes about something greater. And that's why some of the greatest non-for-profits are the greatest for who they are, because they're doing something for something greater, not just for making the money, right? Your why is your greatest weapon against your opponent, like I said, because now you're becoming a superhuman, you're becoming supernatural. And that why is giving you that ability to enter something that your opponent might not have. And that's giving you the one up on them. Sylvester Stallone is another great story that he had no job. And he said he was married, and his wife said, you know, you got to go get a job because we have no money. And he says, I'm not going to go buy a job. I'm not going to go get a job because if I get a job, that means I'm settling. And if I settle, he wanted to become an actor. And he says, if I settle, I'm never going to reach my goals, which is true. And he went out and he said, I'm going to write a script. He went to a fight he saw, and it ended up being one of the greatest fights of all time. And he said, I'm going to make a movie about this. And he wrote the script, and he went out to try to sell the script. He couldn't sell the script. Everyone laughed him out of their office, and he had no money left. He took his dog, which was one of his greatest prides, and at that time was one of his best friends. And he went out and he had no money, and he sold his dog for $25. And he went out and he saw this fight. He started writing a script on this fight. He sat and wrote. He said he never wrote so much in his life. He sat and wrote for a whole night, a full night, for 20 hours straight. He was writing. He said, I never wrote so much. And he went out and tried to sell the script, like I said, and he couldn't. No one wanted it. Finally, he found someone, and they loved the script, and they said, we'll give you $125,000 for it, which is a huge amount of money for someone that's coming out of a newbie, if you will. And he said, I'll only do it if I'm the main actor. And they laughed at him, and they said, you buddy, you can't even speak English properly, and you want to become the main actor? You can go fly a kite. And finally, he found another offer, and they said $250,000. And he said, if I'm not the main actor, it's off the table. And they said, no way. They came back to him, and they said, we'll give you $325,000 for this script. Obviously that you're not in it because you can't speak English properly. You don't know how to pronounce. You have no pronunciation. And he said, no, not if I'm not the main actor, because he was so strong about what he wanted. He knew exactly what he wanted. He was laser focused. He knew what his why was. And he said, no. And they said, you know what? Okay, we'll give you $35,000, which is a huge decrease in price, and we'll let you star in the in the movie. And he said, okay. And he got his check, and the first thing he did was he went to go find his dog because he loved his dog so much, and it was his pride and joy. So he went back to the place where he sold his dog originally. He tried to find the dog, and he sat there for 3 days waiting for this guy to come back, hoping he would. And the guy comes back and he says, I want my dog back. And he says, hell no, I'm not giving you your dog back. And Stallone says, I'll give you double what you paid for it. I'll give you $50. And he says, hell no, I'm not giving you my dog. And he says, okay, I'll give you $100. He says, no. He says, okay, we'll give you $500. That's a huge markup on the dog that's a great business deal. And he said, no. And finally, they negotiated $15,000 he paid to buy back his own dog that he sold to this guy a couple months earlier. And the guy said, I'll do it for $15,000, but I also want a part in the movie, which is crazy. And he actually is in the movie. But this is just a testament again to show you how strong his why was. He knew exactly what he wanted, and he wasn't going to back down from it. And eventually became one of the most iconic actors. So again, your 5 questions. Why do you do what you do? Okay, you show up. Why do you show up? Why do you come to work? Why do you perform? Why do you compete? What is the reason that you get up every morning or continue to practice? Is it something you love? These answers will give you some insight into finding that why. Who cares that you succeed? Are you doing it for something greater? Are you doing it for somebody else? And I'm not going to get into doing something for an ulterior motive or doing something for somebody else. We're obviously talking about something that you love and something that you appreciate and you're passionate about. And now you're going out and doing it. So who cares that you succeed? The answer to that question will help you realize that you're not just doing it for yourself, but there's other people that care about you. And there's other people that are supporting you throughout your journey or throughout whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. How would you feel if you stopped? If you stopped tomorrow, what would that mean to you? How would that feel? Some people would say, hell no, I'm never stopping what I'm doing because I love it every second of it. Why do you love it? Why do you continue? What do you gain by doing it? How do you feel if you, again, what if you stopped it, but what do you gain by continuing to do it? Are you gaining something externally, internally, something that will last a lifetime? What is it? And lastly, if no one saw you do it, would you continue? Are you doing it just for the love and the fame? Or are you doing it for something greater than yourself that it lasts even though even though no one's watching you do it, okay? So great 5 questions that you can think about, maybe jot them down and find the answer to those. Okay, so number 2, the second technique and the second tool that we're going through today is called visioning, okay? And I have a great resource for you guys at the end of this webinar that I just put out. I'm sorry, I just created, I didn't even put it out yet, but it's a tool, a walkthrough recording of what we're about to talk about, the visioning exercise. And it hasn't been released to the public yet. And I'm going to give you guys the ability to jump on that opportunity right at the end of this webinar. So visioning gives you the ability to see into the future and decide your own outcome. And you might be like, Mendy, that sounds retarded, because nobody can predict the future. Nobody can decide their own outcome. But visioning has proven to us that we can predict our future by seeing it prior to it happening. Okay, what do I mean by that? When you vision, and the next slide is going to tell you how to do the exercise, but when you see something, use your imagination for a task that you have to perform. Okay, so let's say, for example, you have a big meeting, right? You have a job interview that you're going in for tomorrow. If you sit down and use your imagination to think about everything that would happen in the interview, the next time you see it, or the next time you're there, so tomorrow when you do go to that job interview, you will feel like you were already there before, which will control your stress levels. It will keep you confident, or even make you confident. And it will allow you to be more comfortable because you've seen this picture before. You've seen this idea in your mind, okay? So some of the greatest Olympians and elite athletes have been using visioning for years. So before a match, they would go find a quiet spot, use the power of their imagination to see their desired outcome, to see what they want to accomplish in the task that they're about to perform. So again, imagination versus reality. Our mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So when we imagine something and then we see it in real life, our mind is tricked into believing like, oh, I've seen this before. There's something about this that I recognize. And obviously it might not be exactly the exact place, and outcome might not be the same, but the idea will be, the idea is still there, okay? And then again, you get used to seeing success. And when you're envisioning this in your mind, you are prone and becoming conditioned to seeing the success that you want to see, okay? So how to use visioning? It's essentially, it's using your imagination. So you really want to tap into the child within you, and you're going to find this quiet spot, and you're going to think about what your desired outcome is for what you're trying to accomplish, okay? So let's say, again, it's a meeting that you have in the morning, a big meeting that you have to prepare for. After you do all the physical preparation, you go into a room quietly. And again, I have a resource for this that's going to be very helpful for you. And you're going to, exactly what it looks like in the picture. Just close your eyes and envision everything that you want to happen using all your senses. What does it smell like? How cold is it? What's the climate like? What do you see? What do you feel? Using every single sense will give you and allow you to, when you do reach that place, it'll allow you to feel as comfortable as you did when you were visioning, which will make the outcome and reality, the imagination and reality, as closely blended together as possible. You want to use different angles as well, okay? So you're going to see yourself or the performance or the meeting through your eyes. You want to see it through a bird's eye view, maybe through someone else's view. What does it look like from the right side, from the left side, from the back side, from the front side, from the top? You want to see all these different things so you can really get a good idea of what it looks like. Different outcomes as well. Maybe you want to see what it would look like for the end of the meeting, the beginning of the meeting. What happens if you do get the job? What happens if you don't get the job? What will it look like if the guy offers you a salary? What happens if he offers you equity in the company? Going through all these different things will help you, give you variety through what the outcome of the meeting might actually be, and it'll align, again, the imagination and reality, the visioning and the reality as closely as possible. This is an interesting one, bright colors, which I'm experimenting with now, which is bright colors. For example, yellow, which we talked about earlier in this webinar. Yellow represents positivity and energy. Thinking about, just flash a bright color, a light blue, a light yellow, or maybe a light red. Colors that are more positive oriented. So you want to stick to the brighter colors and the darker colors. What this does is it's an anchor, so to say, for the reality, for the actual physical performance. So when you are anchoring these thoughts of visioning, of performance, of the desired outcome. So again, if you're, let's say it's a shot on the basketball court, when you're thinking about making that shot, you're obviously thinking about succeeding in that shot, succeeding in that task. And when you attach a bright color to it, you're anchoring that thought to the color. And now this is actually an exercise called anchoring, which we're not going to talk about in this webinar, but anchoring is very simple. You take a thought or an idea and you anchor it to something that you can refer back to later. So now when you do go to that meeting or you do have that shot on the basketball court that you have to make, you can go and refer to that color. Let's say it was bright yellow, and you just think yellow, and those thoughts start to come back to you. And it'll allow you to really hack visioning in a faster way. Siri Lindley is a athlete, and she was one of the greatest Olympians. And she talks about how she learned visioning, and she did visioning exercise every single day for 365 days. For a whole entire year, she did visioning, detail by detail, every single little thing, which is very important. All those little details she thought about. She was preparing for a triathlon, and she was visioning jumping into the pool and going through the entire race, and then getting on the bike, and then going through the running, all of it. She did every single part of every single detail for 365 days. And the day of the Olympics came, and she takes a leap into the pool, and she blacks out. And she finally becomes conscious again, and she looks around, and she sees she's in last place, which no one wants to be in that situation when A, you're an athlete, and B, you're in the Olympics. And she realized that she bumped into somebody. Two people collided jumping into the pool. And she said afterwards, the visioning is good. But first of all, she only envisioned the best part, or the desired, or the succeeding of what her outcome is, or her performance. She was only thinking about the optimal and the best case scenario for her performance. She never thought or envisioned jumping into a pool, colliding with somebody, and blacking out. That wasn't part of what she rehearsed for, which caused her, if she would have rehearsed for it, she would have been able to say, okay, I've been here before. I know exactly what to do now. Okay, I collided with someone. I'm just going to keep on swimming, or get out of my head, and however she decided how to do that. But since she didn't rehearse for that, she was only thinking about the best case scenario. It made a huge difference in her performance. So again, different angles, different outcomes is very important when it comes to vision, okay? So technique number three is called breathing, okay? And everyone's like, okay, we all breathe. We all know how to breathe. If you don't know how to breathe, you'd be dead, right? But the truth is, most of us don't really know how to breathe. And what I mean by that is either we're breathing through our chest, or we're not breathing deep enough. Okay, so our breathing could be longer stretches, but if it's through our chest, we're not getting maximum oxygen into our body, which will not allow us to be clear-headed, which will have an an effect on our performance, okay? The second will be if you are taking longer breaths, but it's through your stomach, through your chest and not through your stomach, that's also going to have an effect on your performance. So you want to take longer intervals of breathing in through your stomach, in through your diaphragm, which will give you the full amount of oxygen coming through your body, okay? So the number one way to control a moment is through breathing. The way to become present and the way to stop thinking about the past and stop thinking about what's going to be in the future is to use breathing as your coming back to the moment tool, okay? It immediately causes your muscles and your body to relax, which will decrease tension, as well as allow you, when you relax, you're able to be more clear-headed, level-headed, and be in the moment again. So breathing, so breathing in this case, so again, we'll bring the example of a basketball player, and I'm going to show you a video in a second. Like I told you earlier about an athlete, a basketball player that missed a free throw in the finals a couple days ago, and I will show you how his breathing pattern was one of the reasons he missed the free throw, okay? It's fascinating. It allows you, like I said, to come back to the present moment. When you take those deep inhale breaths of oxygen, it'll clears your head and it allows you to be present. Okay, so this is a picture, obviously, of LeBron James. LeBron James, we know, has been using mental training and has been using visioning as well as breathing. This is in a timeout a couple years ago in the finals where he stopped everything. He knew that there was a big moment coming. He stopped, took a breath, let it out, and it allows him to relax his muscles. When your muscles are tense, you can't shoot the ball as well for a basketball player. And I'm sure it's the same for it works the same way for a performer on stage, whether you're a musician, whether you're performing arts. If your muscles are tense, you're higher risk to injury. If your muscles are tense, you're higher risk of not fully going through the motion of the exercise that you need to be completing. If it's ballet, if your muscles are tense, you can't completely fulfill let's say a spin because your muscles are tense, which won't allow you to express those emotions physiologically. I'm not talking about mentally, I'm talking about physically. So here's a video, okay? His name is George Hill, and the game was, the Cavaliers were down 1 point. Okay, 106-107 with 4.7 seconds left. He gets the ball, he gets fouled. He has 2 free throws at the low. When you get fouled in basketball, you get 2 free throws. Okay, so he goes to the line for 2 free throws and watch what happens.
Picks up his third.
First free throw looks pretty good. He looks pretty confident. He goes through the motion. He takes the shot. He makes it. Okay, tie game, 107 up. Both teams at 107, 4.7 seconds left. Okay, now you see here, his breathing starts to become very shallow. He starts breathing in through his chest, and he starts, if you look at his eyes, there's a fear that just overcame his eyes, and he seems like he's worried and scared, and he's not fully present. He's thinking about either the future or the past, thinking about what can happen or what happened previously. It could have been something that happened years ago that happened in his life that's now going to impact this free throw that's about to happen. Deep, shallow breathing in his chest, not through his diaphragm. It was through his chest, which is not allowing him to get the full oxygen, okay?
Plenty of time with 4.7 remaining.
So he lines up with the free throw, goes through his free throw ritual, takes the shot, and comes off right up to the front of the rim, okay? And they ended up losing the game to that. But you see how it came down to how he was thinking. I can't tell you what he was thinking because I'm not a mind reader. But if you look at his chest, he wasn't allowing the oxygen to come fully into his diaphragm. And if he did, I'm not saying that he would have made the free throw, but I'm saying that he would have had more oxygen, and he also would have been more level-headed and clear-headed, which will allow him to be more in the moment and think about right now. Think about this second instead of thinking about something else, okay? So here's a couple of different breathing techniques that we teach at Yellow Mentality, okay? So there's something called box breathing. Box breathing is when you take the same amount of seconds up, hold for the same amount of seconds, exhale the same amount of seconds, and then hold again the same amount of seconds before inhaling again. So let's say it would be 2 seconds. You would inhale for 2 seconds, hold for 2 seconds, exhale for 2 seconds, and then hold again 2 seconds before you inhale again, okay? And there's so many different types of breathing techniques. The ones that I talk about here are not even reaching the edge of the surface of what different breathing techniques. And the most important thing when it comes to breathing is finding a technique that works well for you. Finding something that you're comfortable with, something that you can appreciate and you don't feel like you're just going through the breathing exercise. It's not just something that it doesn't feel natural for you. It has to feel natural, but the most important thing, again, is getting full oxygen in through your diaphragm, into your stomach, that will allow you to get the maximum benefits, okay? So box breathing is the same amount of seconds up, hold, down, and hold, okay? Ascending breathing will be, let's say you just ran up the court, and now you can't inhale for 4 seconds because your heart rate's too high. So you would go 1 second, up, 1 second down. Inhale 1 second, exhale 1 second, which will, and then do that for a couple times, and then you would go to the next. When your heart rate starts to come back, go to the next second. It would be maybe 2 seconds, inhale, 2 seconds, exhale. And then keep on progressing until you're able to go higher and higher and higher, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. The optimal amount of seconds for breathing is closer between 7 and 10 seconds. So that's how long you want to really, that's the maximum relaxation is going to be when you're inhaling for 7 to 10 seconds. That's going to get you the most oxygen, and it's also going to get you the most relaxed, okay? Pyramid breathing. Pyramid breathing is going to be the same amount up and down, okay? So it would be 4 and then 4 down. 1 up, 1 down. 4 up, 4 down. And then, again, very important, through your diaphragm, it allows your body and your muscles to relax, which is very important when it comes to performance. And it's the best way to become present and prepared for a big moment. And if it is before a big moment, think about, as you're taking those breaths in and out, think about what the image of success will look like. If it's that NBA player about to take that shot, you should be visioning and going through what it would look like to make that free throw. What is the motions physically or physiologically look like when he has to go through that motion of making the free throw? That will help a lot, and it will get you prepared through muscle memory to be prepared for that moment, okay? And the fourth technique and tool that we have is called mental blocks, okay? And we have an acronym for this. I'm going to show you the next slide. There's 4 main mental blocks. We call them GAIL, G-A-I-L, okay? In the next slide, we're going to talk about it. But there's 4 main mental blocks that stop people or prevent people from reaching that, either the next level or making that shot or making that move in performing arts or saying something that's crucial when it comes to a meeting. Whatever it is, there's 4 main mental blocks that stop us from reaching our optimal performance, okay? It's also very important to remember that it's always about perspective, always. We can, like I said, just like we can think something and create a feeling, it's the same thing with mental blocks. The way we created the mental block is the same way how we can get rid of the mental block. It's all goes on inside of our head. We can just reframe something, shift in perspective, which will allow us to get back or to destroy or eliminate that block that's coming up for us. It's all about conditioning of the mind. If you're conditioned to think positively, then you'll be able to weather or control and steer these mental blocks in the right way. If it's not conditioned in a positive way, then you're going to allow these mental blocks to get the best of you when it comes to performance, okay? What we put in our mind comes out. If you're putting positive ideas and visions inside of your head, that's what comes out when you actually have to perform. If you're putting in negative things and you're always being ridiculed and you're always being beat up for it, that's what's going to come out. And that's how it's going to have an effect on your performance. Our thoughts have power. We know that. The things that we think about have an effect on the people around us, on the things we say, on the things we do. Thoughts, it all originates from here. We don't do something and then try to figure out why we don't rationalize it later. It all stems from here, okay? And it's all based on how we're conditioned. So like I said, GAIL, G-A-I-L, stands for gremlins, assumptions, interpretations, and limiting beliefs. And I'm going to go through each one and tell you what the symptoms of each of these mental blocks are, and how to eliminate it in a matter of seconds, okay? So your gremlin is, we'll just go to the next slide. Your gremlin is a voice inside of your head, okay? It's that little guy, a little dude that sits on your shoulder and says, you're not good enough. You're not strong enough. You're not tall enough. You're not talented enough. You're not developed enough. You're not experienced enough to work in this law firm or in this company. And when that, we all have this voice. And when that voice comes up, it right away will deter us and stop us from reaching our full potential, okay? And its only job, it has one job. Its only job is to get you to doubt yourself. And this doubt it's a defense mechanism, right? It's going to shield you from embarrassment. It's going to shield you from shame. It's going to shield you from discomfort. That's what the gremlin is thinking. But if you're able to tap through it and break through that voice, the upside is so much greater and better than just shielding yourself from embarrassment, shame, and discomfort. Okay? And another thing is it's never completely gone. No matter how much work you do, no matter how much work I do with my clients, the gremlin's always there. It never leaves because its job is to do this always on and on and on, continuously. That's its only job. Okay, so how do you deal with the gremlin? You come up, you get up to the basketball court, and you think, I'm not good enough to make the last shot. I'm not good enough to make this free throw. What do I do? You have to see it as an external voice, not your voice, but an external voice. You have to see it as, this is not me talking. This is not coming from my development as a person or as a player or as a worker or as a ballet or a musician. It's not coming from there, but it's coming from it's something external. It's a gremlin that's talking, and it's not real. It's not a description or it's not really who I am. Okay. So how do you do that? You name it. It sounds funny and it sounds silly, but it works. Try it or speak to someone that has. By naming the gremlin, that's the best way to detach it from yourself. Okay. So you're going to name it something. It could be a person's name. It could be an idea. It could be a concept. When you name it, it starts to, psychologically, you don't associate it with yourself because you're realizing, oh, that's this guy talking, right? If it's Max, oh, that's Max talking. Okay. It's not Mendy talking. It's Max. And when Max talks, I know not to listen because his job is only to deter me from reaching ultra performance. And its only job is to get me to doubt myself. And I'm not going to allow that voice to get in the way of making the free throw right now. Okay. And then lastly is listen to what it says because it's not coming from a bad place, so to say. It's an innocent voice. They want the best for you, but the voice has, it's trying to shield you from certain things, right? So you have to listen to it and reaffirm it while you'll be okay, right? So let's say you're not tall enough. You know what? I appreciate it, Mr. Gremlin, and I appreciate you caring for me, which is very important. And I like that. But in this case right now, that's not what's going to stop me from making this shot because I know how much practice I put in. I know how many free throws I've done in my career. I know how much mental training I've done. And being tall enough is not going to be the thing that's going to hold me back. Don't worry about it. It'll be okay. Or I don't need height in this scenario. Okay. So you want to reaffirm why you'll be okay to the gremlin, and it'll quiet it for the moment. Okay. Second is the assumption. Assumptions are things that we assume based on past experiences. Okay. So since X, therefore Z. Since I failed last time, I'm going to fail this time. Since I got fired the last time I did this, therefore I'm going to get fired again this time. Since I missed the shot last time or last game or last time I was in this scenario, therefore I'm going to miss it again. It's an assumption by using our past experiences to try to fill that gap or fill that story. Okay, so assumptions are always about trying to predict the future to feel better about it. You want to feel better by knowing what the outcome is. Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna get fired. You know what? So therefore, it's almost like you're passive aggressive. Therefore, I don't have to. Don't show up in the morning to work, or give the ball up to somebody else because you're probably gonna miss again, like you did it. And therefore, again, it's gonna shield me from all the problems that's gonna come if I do miss it. Okay, and it's based on the pattern of the way we think. If we're conditioned to think negative, then the assumption will be negative. If we think conditioned to think positive, then the assumption will be positive. And it's very important to remember or even note that our mind is a muscle. We can condition our mind just like we can condition our biceps, and we can condition our abs, and we can condition our triceps to look a certain way through exercise, the same goes for our mind. As we condition our mind to start to think more positive, more positively, more positively, more positive thoughts will come up. And then when we do reach this stage, as you condition your mind, you'll be able to make the assumption in a positive way. Okay? So how do you deal with it? When you do have, if you haven't conditioned your mind, how do you deal with the assumption, a negative assumption? Come back to the present moment. That's the most important thing, because you're either thinking about the future or you're thinking about the past. Your assumption is based on either the past or the future. Now, by coming back to the present moment where nothing happened yet, all you have right with you right now in the present moment is yourself and your thoughts. And if you can come back to the present moment and reassure that it's going to be okay, that's one of the best ways to get rid of that assumption. And again, all that matters is right now. Right now is the most important thing. Tell yourself what you want to see happen. Tell yourself it's going to be okay. You can talk to yourself. No one's going to call you a psychotic person. Talk to yourself and say it's going to be okay. You'll make the shot. Everyone's going to go crazy in a good way. And, trust your abilities. Trust all the practice and all the fundamentals and your muscle memory that you've done for all these years, or practices, whatever it is, that you're going to succeed in that area. The third one is interpretation. Interpretations is trying to fit the rest of the story. I know we only have 10 minutes left, but we're almost done. Trying to fit the rest of the story. Okay, so something that happens, someone's late to a meeting. Now you start thinking in your mind, oh, what happened to him? Does he think that it's supposed to be Thursday instead of Tuesday? Does he think that we were supposed to meet in Starbucks instead of the different coffee shop? What are they thinking? And you start trying to come up with ideas of what's going on inside of their head just to try to fill that story. Okay, the boss calls you in. Oh my God, am I fired? Am I getting a pay cut? What's going on? Your mind just starts going crazy, trying to find that fill in the blank, if you will, of what your mind's trying to come up with. Okay, it makes us think that we're going to feel better knowing. Oh, now that I know X, Y, Z, our mind doesn't want to is afraid of the unknown, right? So you're trying to fill in that explanation to try to make yourself feel better. It's also our alert mechanism going into mode. Right? It's going into on mode. Oh, what's going to happen if X? Oh, again, and it comes down to conditioning. If you're conditioned positively, you're going to be more prone to make positive interpretations. That's very key. How do you deal with interpretation? You reframe it to a positive story. So your boss calls you in, you just reframe it to, oh, yeah, he probably just, he wants me to get him a coffee. Or he wants to give me a pay raise, something positive that's going to boost your mode and not make you freak out just because your boss called you into your office, okay? Work on positive conditioning, like I said. The positive conditioning will make you prone to more positive interpretations. And lastly, say it's okay because I believe in my ability. I know I'm a good employee. And if you're not, then that's a separate issue that you have to work on. But you believe in your ability. I know I can make this shot because I've done all this practice. I know I can make this move in ballet because I've practiced all this time. I'm confident in my ability. And if you're not, you know what to work on. And if you are, then interpretations won't be negative. Okay. And lastly is your limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are universal. Limiting beliefs is that something's not possible because no one has done it. Okay. No one became a millionaire, for example. Let's just come up with one. No one became a millionaire while they were in school or doing 5 classes. Nobody lived on Mars, therefore it's not possible. No one ever juggled 6 jobs at my age and still made money and had a family. You come up with these crazy concepts and ideas of what's not possible just because no one else did it. Okay, it's a mental hurdle holding you back. Nothing's not possible just because no one ever did it before. Anything is possible if we use our mind in the proper way. Okay, Roger Bannister is the most famous limiting belief we have to date. He was a runner, and he challenged the idea that it was impossible to run a 4-minute mile. And until that day, nobody ever ran a 4-minute mile. They thought it was impossible. You cannot run that fast. And he challenged that universal belief, and he was the first person to run a 4-minute mile. And within the year, or even to date, there are thousands and thousands of people that have broke his own record. So what's possible is just it's a mental block holding you back. Okay. How do you deal with it? It's never about resources. It's never, oh, it's not possible because I don't have X, because I don't have money, because I don't have help, because I don't have You name it. It's never about a resource. It's about resourcefulness. It's about going inside of your head and pulling out that mental hurdle, mental block, and saying, I can do it because X, Y, Z. Don't say I can't do it because X, Y, Z. Come up with ideas and ways that you couldn't do it. Not that you can't, okay? The only thing ever holding you back is you. The only thing that's stopping you from doing anything that you want is your own mental blocks, your own ideas and self-inflictions of how you view yourself. You can do anything you set your mind to. And then lastly, ask yourself, why not me? Why can't it be me? Why can't I be the person that runs a 4-minute mile? Why can't I be the person that runs a 3-minute mile? Why can't I be the person that's going to be the next 20-year-old millionaire? What's stopping me from being that person that I want to become? And you're going to come up with some negative answers, of course, because no one is successful overnight. Again, condition your mind. Come up with negative. If you come up with negative, let's say you come up with 10 negative answers, try to come up with 15 positive answers of why it could be you. And give yourself evidence to allow yourself to believe that you can do it. You can do anything you want. Okay? So that's my 4 tips and exercises that will get you 10x on your performance. Each of those 4. So just going back, we have the why, finding your why, conditioning yourself to find that why. Again, it's all about conditioning. Everything's about conditioning. It's exercise. Exercise your mind. Just like you exercise in the gym, you got to exercise your mind in your mental gym. Okay? So finding that why. Why do you do what you do? What are you doing it for? Decreased ego will lead to superhuman ability, supernatural, if you will. The second one was visioning. Use visioning and see things and envision your success, because your mind doesn't know the difference between reality and your imagination. The third was breathing. Breathe in through your diaphragm. Deep breathing, which will allow you to relax, be in the moment, and get the maximum ability to perform in those moments that are most crucial. And lastly were the Gales, the gremlins, the assumptions and interpretations, and limiting beliefs. And we talked about how to decrease and eliminate those blocks, obviously all through conditioning. Okay, so lastly, we have, I have 2 different things for you guys. The first one is a book that I wrote, which some of the stuff that I talked about today are all in that book. It's called All Up in Your Head. It's all in your head, okay? You can find that book at yellowmentality.com/book. It's a great book. It's short. It's not long. It's an easy read. And it'll allow you to get rid of some of these mental blocks. And it goes through a couple more awesome exercises that will allow you to increase that performance and reach optimal performance. The second one, which I talked about in the beginning of this webinar, is the visioning exercise walkthrough. Okay, it's a recording that I just did a couple days ago that I haven't even put out to the public yet. It's not public. You guys can have first access to it if you go and email Mendy, M-E-N-D-Y, at yellowmentality.com, and just throw in the subject line visioning. I will send you over that visioning exercise for free. There's no sale on this whole entire webinar. I'm not trying to sell you guys. The book is free and the visioning exercise is free. I am 100% devoted in helping people reach max performance, reach optimal performance, reach peak performance, and I tell you exactly how to do it right here, right now. So it's pretty simple. So that's what I got for you guys in regards to the 4 ways to increase performance. I appreciate your time coming on. I got also, if you guys want more resources, which who doesn't want, right? We have Yellow Mentality podcast is on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all that good stuff. There's the podcast is called Yellow Mentality, the Yellow Mentality podcast, and I go and interview people, some of the experts, the best people, athletes, some experts in the field of reaching peak performance. Follow me on social media. I'm all over social media. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Reach out with me. Talk to me. Be interactive. There's nothing wrong with that, right? At Mendy Dubov is where you can find me. And we also have a Facebook group. The Facebook group is called Achieve Ultimate Success with Yellow Mentality. Okay. It's a group where we're a bunch of people together. It's still growing. And we talk about becoming the best you, reaching the ultimate success, which is personal mastery, becoming a better person, becoming a better at what you do and what you love. Okay. And obviously share your feedback, reach out. I'm all on social media networks, and tell me what you think. Thanks so much, guys, for joining. And we will keep you posted with the next and further stuff going on at Yale Mentality. All the best.